You are not bound by time, and neither is your desire. The idea that manifestation takes long periods of time is a misconception that keeps many from realizing their full potential. You do not need to wait months or years for your desires to materialize. You need only 17 seconds of pure focused thought. A mere moment, a single flash of emotional intensity can be enough to begin the process of creation. It's not about the passage of time, it's about the quality of your assumption. In those precious 17 seconds, you align with the feeling of your desire already fulfilled. Imagine, for a moment, the exact scene that reflects your wish already realized. See it in your mind's eye, not as a distant hope, but as a present reality. The mind does not distinguish between the real and the vividly imagined. When you enter that mental state of living in the end, you are impressing upon your subconscious mind the belief that it is already done. When you focus on the feeling of fulfillment, you enter a state of powerful creation. The world around you is merely a reflection of your internal state. Whatever you assume and accept as true will eventually be mirrored in the external world. The process is not one of forcing things into existence or waiting endlessly for them to come. It is about assuming the state you wish to experience. This assumption, held long enough to evoke the emotional charge of reality, brings forth your desire. The subconscious mind does not require hours of focus. In fact, it's the intensity of your emotion that makes all the difference. You can feel deeply in a moment, and that feeling will plant the seed that grows into your manifestation. 17 seconds may sound like an insignificant amount of time, but in those seconds, if you are fully present and emotionally engaged, you change the course of your future. When you focus on a single thought or scene for that period, you impress the subconscious with the image of your fulfilled desire. This is not just wishful thinking, nor is it passive hoping. It is a conscious assumption of reality, held with absolute conviction. You do not need to beg for your desires. You simply need to assume they are already yours. The moment you do, you activate the forces of creation to work on your behalf. You are not separate from your desire. You are already one with it, in essence, but it requires your attention, your belief, and your emotional investment to bring it into physical manifestation. You cannot wait for the world to change first. You must change your inner world and trust that the outer world will follow. 17 seconds of living in the end, that's all it takes to set things in motion. The power to manifest lies within you, and it is accessible through the intensity of your inner state. It is not dependent on how long you hold the thought, but on how strongly you feel it. You can change your life in the span of a few seconds by choosing to believe, to feel, and to assume the end result. This is not a distant dream or an impossible feat. It is simply the law of creation at work, available to you at every moment. Remember, the moment you step into the feeling of your fulfilled desire, the universe has no choice but to align with your assumption. The thought planted in those 17 seconds has already begun to manifest, and as you persist in your assumption, the world will mold itself to reflect your inner vision. The subconscious mind is an obedient servant, responding only to the vivid emotional impressions it receives. It does not analyze or question. It simply accepts what is impressed upon it. The mind does not distinguish between what is real and what is imagined, especially when the feeling associated with that thought is intense and real. The key to unlocking your desires is not found in words alone, but in the emotional charge attached to those words. When you vividly imagine something, it becomes more than just a mental image. It becomes a living experience. If you imagine yourself in a situation where your desire is already fulfilled, you must feel the emotions that would accompany such a fulfillment. The more real and intense the feeling, the more easily the subconscious accepts the suggestion. The power lies not in the words or images themselves, but in the deep emotional engagement that accompanies them. For example, if you imagine a scene in which you are enjoying your dream job, do not simply think about it in a detached manner. Rather, Allow yourself to feel the excitement, pride, and satisfaction of being in that position. Let your emotions rise, as though you are already there. The subconscious does not know the difference between this emotional experience and an actual event. It absorbs this feeling and begins to work to make it a reality in the external world. This is why simply thinking positive thoughts or repeating affirmations will not necessarily lead to change. Words alone are empty unless they are infused with the power of feeling. When the feeling is absent, the subconscious does not accept the suggestion. In fact, the more neutral the emotional state, the less likely it is that the suggestion will be internalized. The intensity of the feeling is what makes the difference. A weak or faint emotional connection to the imagined desire will not have the same effect as one that is deeply felt. When you emotionally engage with the idea of your desire, you are impressing the subconscious with a reality that it must eventually bring into being. The subconscious does not question whether it is possible or how it will happen. It only accepts the feeling as true and works to bring about the conditions that match that feeling. This is why feeling is not just an accessory to the process of manifestation, it is the core of it. It is the feeling that transforms the mental image into a reality. It is the feeling that communicates with the subconscious mind and aligns your inner world with your outer desires. When the mind is saturated with feeling, the subconscious begins to work on manifesting the image, bringing it into alignment with the physical world. To manifest your desires, you must give the subconscious something to work with. It cannot work with a thought that has no emotional charge. The emotional intensity associated with a vivid, felt image is the catalyst for manifestation. The more intensely you feel the experience, the more rapidly it begins to take shape in your world. The subconscious is always working, always creating, but its creations are reflections of the images, feelings, and beliefs it holds. It does not need time or effort to produce results. It simply needs emotional clarity and intensity. By feeling deeply, you give the subconscious a command it cannot ignore, and it begins to bring your desires into being without hesitation. The power lies within the emotional experience. The more you feel, the faster the results will come. To live from the end is to adopt the state of being that aligns with your desire as if it has already been fulfilled. It is not about waiting for circumstances to change before assuming the feeling of the wish fulfilled. It is about stepping into the state as though the world around you has already conspired to reflect your deepest desires. The most powerful thing one can do is to live as though what is desired is already a part of your present reality. It is not enough to hope for a change. One must actually feel and experience it as real now. When the mind shifts to the end result, it aligns itself with a future already realized, and from that place, creation begins. Rather than imagining the journey toward the goal, it is essential to focus entirely on the end, the destination, where everything has already materialized. By living from the end, one is no longer concerned with how or when it will happen. The focus is entirely on the feeling of already having what is desired. This state of being is far more powerful than any external effort. The world often teaches that results come through hard work and waiting, but in truth, they come when the inner world is aligned with the desired outcome. The mental picture must be held from the end. This does not mean imagining a scenario where you are still striving for the goal or hoping to reach it. It means imagining the scenario as if the goal has already been achieved, as though you are living in the fullness of that desire now. When one adopts the state of living in the end, the actions, thoughts, and behaviors that align with that end will naturally follow. The law of attraction, so to speak, does not require an effort to chase after what is wanted. It requires that one already be in possession of what is desired within the mind. The subconscious mind must first be convinced of the reality of the desired state before the outer world can mirror it. And it is in the assumption of that reality, in the vivid imagination and feeling that it is already so, that the change begins. This process requires a shift in identity. Instead of seeing oneself as someone who is pursuing a goal or waiting for a dream to come true, one must begin to see themselves as the person who already has what they desire. Whether it is wealth, love, or success, living from the end is about identifying with the person who has already attained those things. The shift in identity is crucial, because once the subconscious mind accepts this new state of being, it begins to bring into physical reality the conditions that match it. The power of living from the end is not about visualizing an ideal future, but about embodying the feeling of already having it in the present moment. It is a state of complete acceptance of your desired state as fact, a surrender to the truth that you are already living the life you wish to experience. When the mind is aligned with this assumption, everything around you must shift to reflect it. There is no delay, no waiting, because the universe works in response to the assumptions held in the mind. To live from the end is not to deny the present moment, but to transform it by aligning the inner world with the desired outcome. It is about recognizing that the outer world is but a reflection of what is felt and assumed within, and that by changing the inner state, the outer must follow. The key to manifesting anything lies not in striving for it, but in already living as if it has already been achieved. When this is done, the universe must yield to the power of assumption, and what is imagined becomes the new reality. The outer world does not exist independently of the inner world. Rather, it is a direct reflection of the assumptions held within the mind. Every experience, every event, every encounter, and every outcome is born from the mental patterns and beliefs that reside in the subconscious. The world around you is not a series of random occurrences. It is a mirror, reflecting the inner state of consciousness. Understanding this is the key to transforming one's life. The belief that external circumstances shape your life is an illusion. It is not the world that must change, but the inner world, the mental state and the beliefs you hold within. When you change your assumptions, the outer world must conform. The subconscious mind does not ask questions. It does not inquire about the how or why of a situation. It simply takes what is fed to it and projects it into the external world. This projection is not limited to large sweeping events, but includes the smallest details of your everyday life. Every interaction, every response, every situation that comes into your experience is the result of what you have assumed to be true about yourself, others, and the world around you. If you see the world as a place of scarcity, it will be reflected in your experiences. If you believe that opportunities are limited, that success is reserved for a few, that love and happiness are fleeting or hard to attain, then these beliefs will manifest in your reality. The outer world will respond to your assumptions by confirming them in ways that appear completely natural. However, this is not reality in its true form. It is merely the outer expression of inner beliefs. The moment you change those beliefs, the outer world must change to reflect them. This understanding empowers you to take full control of your reality. No longer is the world something that happens to you. It becomes something that responds to you. By shifting your assumptions, by altering your beliefs about what is possible and who you are, you begin to see a world that aligns with your new vision. It is not necessary to struggle against external circumstances or try to change them directly. The key is to shift your inner state, and as the inner world changes, the outer world inevitably follows suit. The belief that something must happen in a certain way, or that conditions must be just right for something to come into your life, is another assumption that must be released. The world does not follow external rules. It follows the internal commands of your subconscious mind. Once you begin to live in alignment with your desired state, the universe will rearrange itself to match your assumptions, bringing forth everything you need to manifest your desires. Your circumstances will not dictate your potential. Your assumptions about yourself and your world will. This concept may seem simple, yet it is profoundly transformative. When the belief is held firmly that everything you need is already within you, and that the outer world must mirror this truth, the power to create and shape your life becomes clear. The reflection of your inner world in the outer world is not a distant concept or a vague theory. It is a law as sure as the law of gravity. What you believe to be true and what you accept as your reality will be reflected back to you by the universe. The key, then, is not to wait for the world to change. The world cannot change until you change the assumptions you hold about it. When you alter those assumptions, when you decide that you are worthy of love, wealth, success, and health, the universe must confirm that assumption in your experience. You need not wait for the world to catch up with you. As soon as the assumption is made, the world will follow, mirroring the change within. This understanding offers an incredible sense of freedom, for it places the power to transform your life firmly in your own hands. The key to manifesting desires lies not in the forceful pursuit of external goals, but in the internal knowing that what is desired is already yours. The act of manifestation begins the moment the inner state is aligned with the desired outcome. It is not about striving or seeking. It is about fully embracing and assuming that the desire has already been fulfilled in the inner world. When this assumption is made, the external world, which is merely a reflection of the inner state, must align with this truth. Too often, people focus on the external effort required to achieve something, believing that through hard work or persistence, they will eventually reach their goals. However, true creation begins within. The external world can only respond to the assumptions held within the mind. When one truly believes that they are worthy of their desire, that they have already received it, the universe has no choice but to rearrange itself to match that belief. This process is not about time, effort, or struggle. It is about alignment with the desired state. The external world cannot dictate the internal state. Rather, the internal state dictates the external world. This is the law at work. The inner world precedes the outer world. By changing what is held as true inside, the world around you must shift to reflect that truth. This is why it is so important to persist in the assumption of the wish fulfilled. When the belief is firmly held that the desire is already realized, the world must bring forth the conditions necessary to make that assumption a reality. Manifestation is not a passive process. It is an active one. However, the activity is not in the form of struggle or exertion. It is the activity of assumption, of persistently holding the state of the wish fulfilled, regardless of what the senses tell you. When one truly feels as though their desire is already a fact, the subconscious mind takes over, and the outer world begins to shift to match that inner knowing. This process does not require forceful action. It requires inner alignment. The world responds to your assumption, not your efforts. Once the assumption of the wish fulfilled is made, it must be persistently held. The challenge is not in manifesting the desire, but in maintaining the assumption that it is already yours. The external world will often appear to challenge this assumption, as it is a reflection of past beliefs and actions. However, the key is to continue living from the end, assuming that what is desired has already been achieved. By doing so, the mind gradually reshapes itself, and the external world will follow. The more persistent the assumption, the more quickly the manifestation will appear. It is important to understand that the manifestation is not something that must be forced or hurried. The process unfolds naturally, as the inner assumption grows stronger and more rooted in the subconscious mind. The world cannot act in contradiction to your assumptions. It must conform to them. The persistence in holding the assumption is what allows the manifestation to materialize. The power lies within you, and it always has been. The only thing that is required is to assume the end result and live from that state. There is no need to chase after what is already yours in the unseen world. The universe works in harmony with your assumption, and as you continue to assume the wish fulfilled, it must be reflected in the physical world. This is the secret to manifestation. The internal assumption always precedes the external reality. The power to manifest lies within the ability to align your inner state with the desire you wish to see fulfilled. The outer world reflects the beliefs and assumptions held within the mind. By living from the end, assuming your desires are already realized, and persistently maintaining that assumption, the universe must respond and bring forth the conditions that match your inner truth. Manifestation is not about external effort, but about inner alignment. When the mind accepts the wish fulfilled, the world follows suit, and what was once imagined becomes your new reality.